The last and possibly most disturbing creep that I'll cover today is one person who Marilyn Manson and Johnny Depp are connected to and practically worship. That creep is Hunter S. Thompson.
When in terms of creativity madness, I want to talk about life experiences. And when one talks about madness and your life experience, I think we cannot not talk about Hunter Thompson. And
Yes.
talk about, yeah.
Hunter S. Thompson is known as a journalist and author on the surface, but in the underworld, he's known as a snuff film director. The autumn months are never a calm time in America. Back to work, back to football practice, etc. Autumn is a very traditional period, a time of strong rituals and the celebrating of strange annual holidays like Halloween and Satanism and the fateful harvest moon, which can have ominous implications for some people. Autumn is always a time of fear and greed and hoarding for the winter coming on. Debt collectors are active on old people and fleece the weak and helpless. They want to lay in enough cash to weather the known horrors of January and February. There is always a rash of kidnapping and abductions of school children in the football months. Preteens of both sexes are traditionally seized and grabbed off of the streets by gangs of organized perverts who traditionally give them as Christmas gifts to each other to be personal sex slaves and playthings. Most of these things are obviously wrong and evil and ugly, but at least they're traditional. They will happen. A quote by Hunter S. Thompson, page 3 from his 2004 book, Hey Rube, Blood Sports and Bush Doctrine and the Downward Spiral of Dumbness. Hunter S. Thompson, through his own writings and quotes throughout the years, gave us a rare view into the sadistic world of Hollywood, politics, entertainment, industry leader insiders, and those unnamed multitudes with lusts and funds that runs parallel to our still, and certainly in comparison, wholesome concepts of the world and what's actually occurring all around us. There exists a global network that feeds the above-mentioned insiders' lust for our children. Without the drive for children coming from the top, the small potatoes bad actors that we too often learn of would not exist. Cut the head off of the snake. So, we know that in Johnny Depp's younger days he was, dare I use the word, groomed by Hunter S. Thompson for initiation into that Hollywood upper crust occult world I referred to throughout this piece. The two enjoyed an extremely close relationship, Depp living with Thompson and therefore no doubt a part of his depraved world early on. They were more so lovers than anything else by Johnny Depp's own insistence. Johnny Depp, being a Hollywood insider having been initiated by Hunter S. Thompson, is now at the top of the food chain, at the top of that depraved occult network which is global. Amber Heard and Johnny Depp are both scum, one worse than the other having been immersed in and partaken in the morally corrupt lifestyles of the mega cult. Your TV has served up yet another polarity they've provided to get people on either Team Johnny or Team Amber to serve many purposes. Again, they're both reprehensible individuals and they get what they both deserve. These are individuals that are wholly different from you and I. We are not the same. They enjoy blood, inflicting suffering, taking part in ritual observances, and playing their world stage roles. The idea that you-know-what-a-chrome was introduced via a movie, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but went under the radar for so long is exactly how they operate. However, it is not a matter of shame for people like this for the uninitiated public to learn of their evilness and depravity, clearly. Anything that would debauch, degenerate, spoil, or corrupt, they are all for, after all, since these things work to incrementally initiate us all. They have a knack for getting even the most heinous of details accepted by the public. Are you not entertained? You're too entertained. Snap out of it. While on one hand we have to make something out of nothing and push back on the propaganda and narratives put out that are designed to deceive the American public and trick individuals into accepting ultimately what is to come, we also have to remain vigilant. Never forget who and what they are. Evil incarnate. You have to be a warrior in spirit above all. Thompson, one of the most outrageous, substance-fueled writers, best known for Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, was a huge part of Johnny Depp's young life. The two had a quarter-century of age between them, but Depp described their 10 years together as a major love affair. Here is where the plot thickens. As I'm sure you're wondering how an arrested man's testimony ties into all of this dirty business. Photographer Russell E. Nelson said Hunter Thompson offered him $100,000 to shoot a snuff film, copies of which would then be sold to wealthy business people of tremendous amounts of money. This is verified in a 2005 article by Tom Flacco for Prison Planet. Recently arrested photographer Russell E. Rusty Nelson, who according to U.S. District Court testimony 2-5-1999, was impersonated by another photographer at Capitol Hill child sex parties during the Reagan and Bush presidencies, told us last week that in 1988 he refused Hunter Thompson's offer for $100,000 to film a graphic child sex snuff movie to be sold to wealthy private clients where a young boy would be murdered as a sacrifice. In his shattering book on the 1988 to 1991 child sex ring scandal that involved GOP elites in Washington, D.C., and prominent citizens in Boys Town of Nebraska, The Franklin Cover-Up, Child Abuse, Satanism, and Murder in Nebraska, attorney and Nebraska State Legislator John DeCamp, 1941 to 2017, a Republican, interviewed Paul ODYSEE, one of the child victims who provided testimonies to grand juries of his abuses and what he had witnessed. DeCamp was ODYSEE's attorney. ODYSEE's testimony included an account of how he and another boy, Nicholas, were taken to Las Vegas and ordered to rape a boy, after which an adult man sodomized and shot the boy, all of which was filmed. The director of the snuff film was Hunter Thompson. Below are screenshots I took from pages 103, 104, and 327 of the book, which confirms the video's recounting of what ODYSEE said. He took the boy's skin off and put it on me, and that's why. I want to take 5 or 6 showers. I'm like washing my hands, but I can't get the blood off. I always see it. It's right there. FM. Counting everybody. How many satanic rituals do you think you participated in? PB. 25 to 30. If fans recall, a man named Paul ODYSEE was awarded $1 million in a legal settlement over the Hunter S. Thompson directed snuff film debacle from the 80s, wherein ODYSEE stated that little children were murdered by a Washington, D.C. elite child snatching ring identical to the ones behind the Piazza Gate scandal today, while being filmed on camera, and he and another boy were forced to participate in having sex with a dead boy's corpse. We were picked up by a white limo and taken to a hotel. I don't remember the name of it. We, meaning Nicholas and I, were driven to an area that had big trees. It took about an hour to get there. There was a cage with a boy in it who was not wearing anything. Nicholas and I were given these Tarzan things to put around us and stuff. They told me to blank the boy and stuff. At first I said no, and they held a gun to my balls and said to do it or else lose them or something like that. I began doing it to the boy and stuff, and Nicholas had anal sex and stuff with him. We were told to blank him and stuff and beat on him. I didn't try to hurt him. We were told to put our blanks in his mouth and stuff and sit on the boy's penis and stuff, and they filmed it. We did this stuff to the boy for about 30 minutes or an hour, when a man came in and kicked us and stuff in the balls and picked us up and threw us. He grabbed the boy and started blanking him and stuff. The man was about 10 inches long, and the boy screamed and stuff, and the man was forcing his blank into the boy all the way. The boy was bleeding from his rectum, and the men tossed him and me and stuff, and put the boy right next to me and grabbed a gun and blew the boy's head off. The boy's blood was all over me, and I started yelling and crying. The men grabbed Nicholas and I and forced us to lie down. They put the boy on top of Nicholas, who was crying, and they were putting Nicholas's hands on the boy's butt. They put the boy on top of me and did the same thing. They then forced me to blank the dead boy up his butt and also Nicholas. They put a gun to our heads to make us do it. His blood was all over us. They made us kiss the boy's lips and to eat him out. Then they made me do something I don't even want to write, so I won't. After that, the men grabbed Nicholas and drug him off screaming. They put me up against a tree and put a gun to my head, but fired into the air. I heard another shot from somewhere. I then saw the man who killed the boy drag him like a toy. Everything, including when the men put the boy in a trunk, was filmed. They took me with them, and we went up in a plane. I saw the bag the boy was in. We went over a very thick brush area with a clearing in it. Over the clearing, they dropped the boy. One said the men with the hoods would take care of the body for them. I didn't see Nicholas until that night at the hotel. He and I hugged and held each other for a long while. About 2 hours later, the men or Larry King came in and told us to go take a shower since we had only been hosed off at some guy's house. We took a shower together and then we were told to put on the Tarzan things. After we were cleaned up and dressed in these things, we were told to put on shorts, socks, and a shirt and shoes and driven to a house where the men were at with some others. They had the film and they played it. As the men watched, they passed Nicholas and I around as if we were toys and sexually abused us. They made Nicholas and I screw each other, and one of the men put the dead boy's penis in mine and Nicholas's mouth. Oh my gosh. I didn't want to write this because the men forced me to bite the boy's penis and balls off. It was gross, and I saw the film where it happened and started freaking out remembering what they made us do afterwards to the boy. They showed us doing everything to the boy. I was there for 5 days attending parties, but only recall cutting my wrist, which is why I stayed 2 days in a hospital under a name I can't recall. Some guy paid for me. Murdered by the cultists, the boy was to be disposed of by the men with the hoods. A snuff pornography film was made of these events. It was directed by a man the party had picked up in Las Vegas whom Paul identified as Hunter Thompson, the same name as a well-known sleaze culture figure. Paul has told investigators that the ring which plunged him into Satanism was centered at Offutt U.S. Air Force Base near Omaha. That he was taken to Offutt to be sexually victimized by a babysitter's boyfriend when he was about 3 years old, around 1970. Offutt is the headquarters for the Strategic Air Command and has had a cadre of thousands of intelligence personnel. At Offutt, and later at the military installations, Paul says this ring trained him by tortures, heavy drugging, and sexual degradation while instructing him in military arts including assassination. In fact, his personal knowledge in these realms can scarcely be accounted for other than by crediting the indictments he has made. Larry King, FBI agent Gary Wall, Alan Baer, Harold Anderson, and former Omaha Police Chief Robert Wadman have all been reported as collaborators with this satanic military-based ring. King reportedly told Paul's captors at Offutt, "He's young, but you trained him good." A member of Nebraska's Concerned Parent Group reported hearing from 2 North Omaha witnesses that King used to send limousines down to Offutt Air Base to pick up CIA agents for parties. Larry King reported his own adorning relationship with the late CIA director William Casey in a September 7, 1988 interview in the Omaha publication Metropolitan. Psychiatrists who have treated a growing number of MPD cases, victims of satanic ritual abuse, report an alarming pattern of findings in many of their child patients. There is a structure to the personalities, conforming to what is evidently a deliberate breaking and reshaping of the mind. This phenomenon was identified to Paul Benassi by his tormentors, and to other victims and witnesses as the Monarch Project at Offutt Air Base. What more is there to say? It is there, but where is there? That is for us to find out. Not for kicks and giggles, but rather our humanity and what there is left.
I went to work for somebody in good faith.
Yeah.
And ended up seeing way more than I ever wanted to or dreamed of.
So Hunter Thompson approached you about doing a snuff film.
Yep.
Okay.
He offered me $100,000 to shoot a snuff film, and I wouldn't do it. I did say snuff film. That's where they would actually kill somebody.
Okay.
And have it on film. They would sell the tape to these wealthy business people for tremendous amounts of money.
You ask me how I live and how I pay for my drugs and my whiskey? Well, that's how I do it.
What is a typical day like for you out there? You still have a home in Colorado, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you do out there? What kind of things going on for you?
I like to kill.
And when you say kill, you're talking about what, neighbors? What?
We don't want to talk about shooting people, do we?
No.
We don't want to talk about shooting people, do we?
No, but you're teasing when you say you like to kill, right?
Yeah. No, I'm not teasing. No, I used to like to kill. I was hunting because I like to kill.
Yeah.
I wish I brought the damn gun.
Uh-huh.
State-of-the-art killing machine.
Killing machine, yeah.
Well, we don't really care. Guns are killing machines.
Yeah.
I don't happen to use them like that, but it's comforting to know that you can kill.
All right, enough.
Both, well, when President Bush came in, two separate parties, once with a white kid, once with a black kid. Yeah, right. So you saw him twice.
Yeah.
And the kid had to perform oral sex on him.
But anyway, this is what Hunter wrote about himself when he was in Palm Beach. Cruising the beach at dawn in a red Chrysler convertible. Two beautiful lesbians in the front seat beside me. We're on our way to an orgy in a mansion not far from the sea.
This mansion where people worshipped the demons. Mm-hmm. What was it like there?
We're on our way to an orgy because I feel a bond with these people that runs deeper and stronger than mere money and orgies and drugs and witchcraft and lesbians and whiskeys. Bestiality is the key to it, I think. I have always loved animals. They are different from us. And their brains are not complex, but their hearts are pure. And there is usually no fat on their bodies, and they will never call the police on you, or take you in front of a judge, or run off and hide your money. Just remember, animals do not hire lawyers. Yes, Hunter, we love you.
Initiation of witchcraft blood sacrifice.
I studied for 6 more months and then taken up to Colorado Springs and initiated. And I do believe that when I testified here at the last time, I explained who the person was that handed me the ceremonial knife for that ceremony. Another senator named George McGovern. You might, before the night gets over, start to realize that Washington isn't bad as you thought it was. It's worse. The ceremony, by the way, was human sacrifice, and the leader of that ceremony that night was George McGovern. That's why when we did the broken cross, we drew his picture into the broken cross as a person practicing human sacrifice. I asked my real mother, I have 2 mothers, foster mother and a real mother, I said, what type of spell is so good that it makes senators and generals do what you want? She said, we didn't cast a spell on them, they're with us. I said, oh, far out, senators that are witches. She says, no, they just belong to us.
Continuing, you actually have the passages in your book out of the diary, and then.
Well, I have right here the diary. If you want me to read a little, okay? Now, understand that I didn't know that the thing was Bohemian Grove back then, nor did the kid when he was writing it. All he knew was he was taken to this place. Let me just read it. It'll take 3 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
I went in January. Now, this is Benassi, a kid named Paul Benassi writing this, and this is directly word for word from his diary. I went in January of '84 on every trip. I was paid by men King knew for sex. In the summer of '84, sometime, I went to Dallas, Texas, and had sex with several men King knew in a hotel. I flew on YNR Airlines. By the way, that's a private airline or just private charter deal. And CAM Airlines, another private charter deal. Normally for King. I never had much personally to do with King, only went where he told me to go. In or on July 26th, I went to Sacramento, California. King flew me out on a private plane from Epley Airfield in Omaha to Denver, where we picked up Nicholas, a boy who was about 12 or 13. Then we flew to Vegas, to a desert strip, and drove into Las Vegas into some ranch and got something. Then flew on to Sacramento. We were picked up by a white limo and taken to a hotel. I don't remember the name of it. We, meaning Nicholas and I, were driven to an area that had big trees. It took about an hour to get there. There was a cage with a boy in it who was not wearing anything. Nicholas and I were given these Tarzan things to put around us and stuff like that. They told me to, I won't use the word, blank the boy and stuff. In other words, have sex with him. At first I said no, and they held a gun to my genitals, I'll use the word, and said do it or else lose them or something like that. I began doing it to the boy and stuff. And Nicholas had anal sex and stuff with him. We were told to blank him and stuff and beat on him. I didn't try to hurt him. We were told to put our blanks in his mouth and stuff and sit on the boy's blank and stuff, and they filmed it. We did this stuff to the boy for about 30 minutes or an hour when a man came in and kicked us and stuff in the genitals and picked us up and threw us. He grabbed the boy and started blanking him and stuff. The man was about, I'm not sure how to say it. The man was about so many inches long, and the boy screamed and stuff, and the man was forcing his blank into the boy all the way. The boy was bleeding from his rectum, and the men tossed me and him and stuff and put the boy right next to me and grabbed a gun and blew the boy's head off. The boy's blood was all over me, and I started yelling and crying. The men grabbed Nicholas and I and forced us to lie down. They put the boy on top of Nicholas, who was crying, and they were putting Nicholas' hands on the boy's blank. They put the boy on top of me and did the same thing. They then forced me to blank the dead boy. It's pretty crude. They put a gun to our heads to make us do it. His blood was all over us. They made us kiss the boy's lips and anyway, do other things. Then they made me do something I don't even want to even write, so I won't. After that, the men grabbed Nicholas and drug him off, screaming. They put me up against a tree and put a gun to my head, but fired into the air. I heard another shot from somewhere, and then saw the man who killed the boy drag him like a toy. Everything, including when the men put the boy in a trunk, was filmed. The men took me with them, and we went up in a plane. I saw the bag the boy was in. We went over a very thick brush area with a clearing in it. Over the clearing, they dropped the boy. One said the men with the hoods would take care of the body for them. I didn't see Nicholas until that night at the hotel. He and I hugged and held each other for a long while. About 2 hours later, the men or Larry King came in and told us to go take a shower since we had only been hosed off at some guy's house. We took a shower together and then were told to put on the Tarzan things. After we were cleaned up and dressed in these things, we were told to put on shorts, socks, and a shirt and shoes and driven to a house where the men were at with some others. They had the film and they played it. As the men watched, they passed Nicholas and I around as if we were toys. And
stay right there. John DeCamp, I don't know if you want to read any more, and I know you're cutting out a lot of the names of some of these people, and some of the well-known, movie producers and people that were there.
I like to kill.
And when you say kill, you're talking about what, neighbors? What?
We don't want to talk about shooting people, do we?
No.
We don't want to talk about shooting people, do we?
No, but you're teasing when you say you like to kill, right?
Yeah. No, I'm not teasing. No, I used to like to kill.
After all of this, I ask you, do you still think Tim Burton and his friends are innocent? I'll let you decide. Thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate and love each and every one of you. If you appreciate the incredibly hard work I have done on this documentary, please donate because it seriously helps me more than you know. I'm struggling a lot right now. There's a lot going on in my life that I haven't discussed because it's pretty personal, but it really would help me an awful lot to get paid for my honest work. So I'm not so tempted to go rob a bank or something. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Anyway, I love you guys. God bless you in the name of Jesus Christ. Bye.